Hi friends, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I hope you will enjoy today's beady inspiration and tutorial. We're going to make a darling pair of earrings, as you can tell from the thumbnail, and we're going to accomplish a couple things today. Well, I am anyway. We are going here, my friends. This is where we are headed. I love a good shoulder dust earring. I love these so much. I am crazy about these earrings. So we're using the sand dollars again as a focal in the design, not only to go back to coordinate with my bracelet I just did, but also to take care of one of my challenge cards I pulled with Malibu Beach. So we'll go through supplies here in just 1 second, but that's where we are going. And we are going to take care of my challenge card, which was using flexible beading wire in my design. So let me gather all the supplies and we'll get to it. Okay friends, I have gathered all my materials and let's go through what you will need for this project. So using my challenge card, I needed a flexible beading wire, so I went ahead and chose my Soft Flex 49 strand in the fluorite. I have a small 5-inch piece, times everything by 2 for a pair of earrings. Now you can adjust that if you want to do a longer run on the top, cut just a little more or a little less. I went ahead and did 5 beads in my design. Let me pull you in here. So I have 5 beads on the top, so I have about a 5-inch piece, and that was plenty enough there for that. And I am again using the Soft Flex 49 strand. Now if you don't have a 49 strand, and also it does not matter on brand, you could use a 21 strand. A 21 strand or a 19 strand would work fairly well with this particular design, okay? So that's your bead stringing wire. We're gonna do a knotted head pin and a couple wire wrap loops here on my bottom dangles. I love the mixed media, so that's why I chose to add the metal in. So I'm using 2 pieces of 22 gauge dead soft wire and silver, and that's about a 4-inch piece times 2. And then of course, the main star of this show is our sand dollar. I am using 4 of the round flower Amazonites, 2 of my 8mm rondelles. I just chose 2 colors that I loved out of that mix we got in Malibu Beach. That looks so gorgeous with that sand dollar. And then of course a fire polish. And all of this goes right back to this beautiful bracelet that I made the other day, even though I used the he-she's and that fire polish, right? So I've got the fire polish to pick up, but we've got that coming right back. So it's a beautifully coordinating set, but I really just wanted to use the rounds up on the top. So that is what we're up to. Now we can build this from the top or the bottom. It's just your preference. I'm gonna go ahead and get started by doing the bottom first. I'm just gonna work from the bottom up. So I'm gonna grab a piece of my craft wire and we'll do a knotted head pin. So for that, I'm gonna need my cutter tool, my round nose, my nylon jaw, and a pair of chain nose pliers. So we'll start off with going right to the end of our wire and the end of my tool. I am going to pull this around just like that, 1 good rotation. Then I'm going to go ahead and lay a couple of wraps below the previous wraps, just like that. And once I get to where I started, right there, I'm gonna go ahead, while that's in my tool, and just kick that wire up. And we'll remove that from the tool. And now we'll just grab this end, fold it over, and push it right through that center coil we just made. We'll get that pulled through. And then we'll grab our nylon jaw pliers. I like to rest my pliers right up against where my spirals are here, okay? And then I'm gonna grab that pair of chain nose pliers and hold one side, and then I'm just gonna kind of pull each side away from each other there and get that pulled down. And we can always move it around if we need to. That one turned out a little funky. Let me finagle that a little bit. I love a knotted head pin. If you're new to making knotted head pins, they are one of the greatest things to learn in terms of a basic technique, making your findings here because they never have to be perfect, and there's such a great organic look to a knotted head pin. So that's what I have there, and then I'm going to go ahead and put my fire polish on. We'll go ahead and do a wire wrap loop now at the top of this bead right here, and then we'll pull that wire across the front and have a little decor of the wire on the outside. So I'm going to put my pliers right there flush on the top of that bead, get my bend in my wire. I'll go back in here with my round nose, and we'll pull the wire up and around the tool, pivot the tool, make sure we have that pressure on the top of the wire so that we can move that wire to the back. Let's make sure everything is centered here. And then I'm going to take my wire, fill up the gap, and then put a little bit of the wire on the outside there. So we'll wrap that around a couple of times to fill up that space. And now when I'm coming around, I just want to kind of pull this down and over the front of my bead in any decorative way. And I just need, I'll pull it out of my tool, I just need to wrap this around that knotted head pin. Just one good wrap here, get that secured around, and then we'll trim. So that's my front, so I'm going to get this to the back, and then we'll trim that off. I am now going to grab my second piece of wire, and I'm going to go down just a little bit. We're going to do a wire wrap loop here and wrap it directly to our bottom component before we add that to our sand dollar. So we'll just go down just a little bit here. We'll get a bend in, and then we will do the start of a wire wrap loop. So up and around, rotate my tool, push that wire to the back, and I'm going to open this loop up here. So we'll open the door, and then let's go ahead and add that component on. Now we'll close the door and wrap that up. So I'm just going to do a couple of wraps there. And now we'll go ahead and trim that excess here. And now what I'm going to want to do on this one is I'm going to want to make sure that when I'm coming down with my wire that it's facing the front, just like this one, right? So I'm going to want to kind of make sure that that front bead there is facing me, right? So we can always turn our loops, by the way, my friends. We can always turn our loops. So I have my bead facing me. I'm going to now grab the sand dollar. I'm going to go through the back. And it doesn't matter which side, right, we start on. They're both, it's pretty much the same. So I'm just going to kind of pull this up, this wire up, into where I want that bead here to land below. And then I'm going to fill that space up there with some wraps, right? So you kind of have to eyeball it a little bit, but trying to just pull it down, and I'm just bending it forward. That's a little too far. Let me pull it up. That's a little too far. Let me pull it up again. It's just a wire. Just want it to get about right there, I suppose. So you see what I've got there? And this also, you know, this looks nice on both sides. It really does. So now I have it like this, right? But this, the front is around here, right? So now that I have that like that, I'm gonna turn it around, okay? And just kind of make sure that this looks decent, okay? And now I'm gonna hold my finger on that wire against the sand dollar and pull this wire down and start to pull and wrap it right around that section right there. Let me get my finger out of the way here. And so now we're gonna just wrap that around to fill that space, right? And now that's where I wanna make sure, again, I'm on the same angle as that front bead right there. So I think I need to move my loop just a smidge. So let me turn my loop a little bit. And now I'm gonna grab, now that I filled up my gap, I'm gonna grab this wire and I'm gonna kind of just come again down at an angle Just make it look organic and pretty. And then again, I'm gonna wrap this around that wire wrap loop on the bottom just the one time and to the back, just like that, and we'll trim it off. And that is what I have now. So cute. And again, you can adjust. If we need to adjust, we can adjust. But I think I'm okay. Looks pretty dangly. I'm going for the dangles here. Okay. And so that is our bottom. Okay. Now, so I'm going to now grab my bead stringing wire. And let me get other things out of the way here. I'm just going to put one tail right through the sand dollar there. And I'm just going to marry up my ends, pull them up. And again, I want to be looking at the front of my earring. Okay, so about like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is put both of my wires together to put my first bead down. So first bead's going down both wires. Okay, and that's the back. And now I am going to separate my wires, and I'm going to grab one of those rondelles, and I'm going to put it down just one of my wires. And then I'm going to put my wires back together, put another flower amazonite on here. Boy, look at that bead. Ooh, that's a pretty one, guys. And this is what I'm going to do now. Notice here what I did, how I put this rondelle down this wire. You can see the outside of the wire here. Okay, let me grab the finished piece and show you what that looks like. So notice how on this finished earring, how we have the bead string and wire on the outside on this side and on the outside on the right. So I just kind of did it that way. You could do it any way you want, but I will just now look to see which wire it needs to go down. Well, let me separate the bead stringing wire here and show you. So obviously I can tell my wires are not crossed, that this bead went down this wire here. So now we need to go down this wire, right? So I'll put my rondelle down this side, and then we'll put our wires back together. Let's put that last amazonite on there. And now we're going to also put our crimp tube down both wires, and then we'll put do a loop here at the end. Okay, so that's what I have. Let me get it to the front. Okay, so now I just can kind of finagle with it a little bit. So I just want to kind of push and pull everything where I want it to be. So I'm just going to hold the top there. Let me put it down on the mat. So I just want this bead stringing wire to really be towards the side here of the design, right? So you can really see it. So we've got that, and then I'm going to push this one down, and I'm going to push that bead down and get this wire pushed that way, and then push this bead down, and then the crimp down. And so that's kind of what we have there. So I kind of like to, they're going to move around a little bit, but after you crimp, but before I'm crimping, friends, I was kind of finagling this a little bit like this, just to kind of have it looking relatively the way that I wanted it to be. Okay, so there we go. And so I've got this much wire left. I do want to trim this wire in half, the one that I'm going to pull back through to do my loop. So I'm going to put that cutter tool about halfway down, and I'm just going to trim that. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my pliers and get that put back through my crimp and push that down into that crimp until I can feel it touch that bead, and it just did. You can kind of feel it. I can kind of feel that that just literally touched that bead there, right? And so you don't need that big of a loop. You really do not. So make your loop any size, but I did not need that big of a loop. So there we go. So now I've got my loop, and I'm just going to take one more look at the front just to see if it looks all dandy. So I can push that wire. Okay. And now I'm going to grab my crimping tool. And I actually want my loop turned that way. So we'll get the plier put right over that crimp. There we go. And I'll go ahead and give it a squeeze. And I'll go round and round. And then we'll trim that excess wire. We're almost done. These are very lightweight. I'm now going to go ahead and take and trim that excess wire, being careful to not cut the loop I just made. We'll get that cut nice and flush. And there we go. And that's what we have. And all I have to do now is put that on my ear wire. Make sure it's facing the front, which it is, and then I'll close that up. And there we go. There is our finished earrings. I hope you guys enjoyed today's beadie inspiration. Matching back coordinating to that beautiful bracelet. I love these. Love them. We'll see you guys in the next one.